All right, the ARRMA Felony, you can tell by the rear little wind deflector here that's part of the rear end. And obviously it's got these wide meats on the back. I was able to correct this little portion right here. I loosened up all of these screws just so the plastic could relax. And then I took my heat gun right here and I applied a little bit of heat to this area, which allowed the plastic to relax. Once it relaxed, I was able to tighten all the screws down. I went through and basically gave a tweak on each one of the screws. Certain screws did tweak, certain other ones did. I could get anything from, let's say, like 1/8 of a turn all the way up to, I'd say, maybe like 1/4 of a turn on some of these fasteners. So I'd definitely recommend go ahead and going through that. On the front here, I had to do something a little bit different on the front. One of the recommendations from Earl Moorhead right off is to go ahead and pop out these screws right here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws, and replace those with a slightly longer screw. Unfortunately, the screws that I had that were slightly longer are those round heads. So my round heads might stick down a little bit, but that's not going to cause any issue. I'm not worried about it. If anything, who knows, maybe it'll create some sparks. Now, I am going to be ripping this pack right here, which this is a HRB Graphene 5,000 milliamp 100C pack. This is what I'm choosing to do. It is a 6S pack, obviously, and I'm not really worried about balance because right now I am just out to rip this thing. Looks like the weather's actually taking a little bit of a turn. What have I noticed? So on the front end right here, I noticed that there's a little bit of extra, you call it pillow ball action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop off the wheel and I'm going to see if I can tighten that up just a little bit to maybe get away from having such movement like I'm having right now. It's just a little bit, I mean, it's probably fine, like as a basher, but I do eventually plan on maybe seeing what we can get with that speed gear that comes with this car. So that, I feel like, is an important thing to me, is to at least kind of go through this thing and check it out. And that's way, that's what's way too loose. Hub itself seems fine, but my ball joints, my upper and lower ball joints are definitely off. All right, so the wife came home, so I let her have the kitchen back, but I just wanted to obviously go over a couple of things. So one of the great things about this is that if you do decide that you do want to have the handbrake in the Felony, which kind of almost seems like you might want to, I don't know, just because it might give that different thing. So obviously the handbrake mounts here to these pins right here, attaches to the drive shaft and or this outpush shaft, maybe stuff like that. Some things are different concerning that, but basically it just attaches to this area, gets a servo, which maybe the battery tray needs to be changed out as well. Not positive, definitely have to look into that. Right now we're focusing on the front wheel here, and what I wanted to see was if I could in fact tighten this my upper ball joint. So my upper and lower ball joints on here are a little loose, and I think I just wanted to give them a little tweak just to see if I could take some of that play out that I feel in there while still maintaining a certain amount of that movement, which right there actually feels great. The bottom one's a little loose. Give that like 1/8 of a turn. That's actually too tight. Back it off like a 1/16. Something like that. And what I'm feeling for is I'm still feeling for the most minutest amount of movement compared to what it had prior. Make sure there's no binding. Obviously isn't going to be any binding. That's the ticket for that. So this top one, just the slightest tweak, and that's gone. So now we're perfect there. While I'm here, I'm just gonna check and or tighten these. Just give them a tweak. While it's off, might as well. That's fine. That's fine. Give this a tweak. Which, that's tight. It's just basically going over the car. Every fastener that you've got, you should basically just give each one a tweak like while you're here. Usually plastic stuff you can get like, you know, just a touch. Real quick, see if that's tight. That was tight. Go over here, tight. That was a little bit of a tweak, you could hear it. Tight. One more right there. Tight. Make sure my receiver, receiver. Make sure my ESC is cranked. That's a little loose. Go over to this one. Give this one a little crank down. That one was loose as well. And the plate is actually done from the underside. Durr. So, alright, so everything seems fine there up in the front end. I'm now going to go over to that wheel. So now I can reinstall this wheel right here. Normally I would put thread lock on, but to be quite honest with you, right at this moment, because I'm going to be bashing this thing, I'm really not worried about putting thread lock on here just yet, or should I? Yeah, alright, you know what? I'm going to put some thread lock on. That's what's great about being able to change your mind. Because I'm going against what I know if I don't put thread lock on here. So I'm just going to put some thread lock on. Just using blue. You can do it two ways. You can put it on the wheel nut. Make sure you go towards that serrated side, and I'm going to put a drop. As long as I open it. I am going to put a drop right inside. What's going on here? It's acting like it's clogged. Is it seriously clogged? Shouldn't be. Oh, maybe I'm not going to put thread lock on it. Wow. What the heck? Yeah, somehow it got clogged. That's weird. Huh. I'm going to have to unclog this. Alright, we are now unclogged. So, it is easier to go ahead and just put a dab on the threads, but I don't know if I can show it on camera here. I don't know if the lighting's any good. But I'll just put a drop right on the top there. And then when I take my wheel nut, I'll obviously put it on, make sure that your knurled side is facing the wheel. And I'll just give it a spin. And I'm not going to worry about this curing for the 24 hours because I really just don't need it to. You know, we're just going to go out and give this thing a quick rip. Now I'm going to go to the other side, and I will cap this thing because obviously I must not have done it. I must not have capped it the last time because it was kind of locked up. So now we're going to go after this wheel right here. I'm going to undo the lug nut. It is a lug nut. Should use an impact gun for this. Take the wheel, put it underneath the car, and I'm gonna feel for, and that's, yeah, definitely loose. I don't know if you can catch that. I'm trying to catch it. So I'm holding the arm, and I do this, holding the arm, and I'm actually pulling that in and out, and I can feel that there's too much movement, and I'm just gonna take that slop out of there. It's so minimal. That actually might be a little too much. That's better. Check the bottom, same thing, way loose. Look at the bottom. So that's got nothing to do with arm. That's slop on my lower ball joint. So give that, we'll go like a 1/8, quarter, Jeez, another 1/8. Another one. Another one. There we go. There's just the most minorest amount of click that I'm feeling in it. And I'm just taking out that slop just to make the steering just that much more, hopefully, stable. Now I'm just going to check these fasteners while I'm right here. That was a little crank, little tweak. Go after this one. And we're probably good on this one. And that actually had a little bit of a tweak too, so putting the little dab just like that right there. That's all I need. I don't need anything nuts. Take the wheel, toss the wheel on. Try not to touch the threads, but even if it does, whatever. It'll actually just drag it in towards the other threads. Make sure you're knurled side forward. And just about there. That's it. Now I'm going to come to the back. In the back, while it doesn't have that same scenario, I want to take off the wheel just to see if I can see where that slop is coming from, because that, to be quite honest with you, that is a lot of slop that's in that back wheel. Pop that off. That is a lot of slop. So what it is it's compound. So this nut is actually loose. So I can probably tighten that up. So I'm going to try tightening that up just a little bit, just to take some of that slop out of there. See how we got that? I'm going to use actually their wrench because I just walked outside. Use their wrench. I'm going to put it on. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tweak. Should be able to tweak that more. You know what? I wonder if the threads are bottomed out. Wouldn't that be funny? I don't think they are. Boy, is that wrench that junk? Yeah, that wrench is... Yeah, that wrench is junk. I think this pin actually is bottomed out, is my guess. So I'm looking at it. I was thinking I could get a little bit of a squeeze out of it, but in reality, the pin is actually the right length. And there was one shim in the back, 2 small shims in the front. So it might be one of those scenarios where measuring it up, looks like the 2 and the 1 equal the same thing, and the only way to get the slop out of there is to possibly add another shim. So I don't have any other shims right now, so we're just gonna go with what's here.
Go to the back. Go to the back. Oh my god, I can't let her come through. No.
Alright, so now I'm going to take this 2-pack of shims, stuff that in there, put that all the way through. Come on, get in there, go to your home. And I was hoping that I was going to be able to get this to squeeze more. I might actually be able to if I put potentially, I guess, a washer on this side. Because I don't think, I literally would just need to squeeze it just a little bit. So I'm going to grab a washer and see if my washer will actually bridge that, that opening. Be right back. So what my hopes were was that one of these washers right here, oops, hoping that hole is going to be big enough to go over, and it is. So what I'll be able to do is use the nylock portion of this to apply a little bit of pressure on the arm, and what it should do is it should, as long as that shim is big enough, and it looks like it might not be. Alright, never mind. It's almost like it needs 2 shims. 2 of these washers on here, which that should work. Okay. That definitely worked. Alright. So that got rid of that slop. The only thing is, yeah, that might be too tight. It doesn't seem like it's tight at all, actually. Huh. There is still freedom. The screw actually is holding into the nylock. That wobble in that, the wobble in the hub is gone. Just going to back it off just a touch. Yeah, so just backing that off just that little much. That should be all right. Now on the top here, same thing on this top section. There is still hub movement, but at least we got rid of some of that, we got rid of the actual hub pin movement. Now there's actually just like axle shaft movement. So that minimized that. I'm satisfied there. I know this is going nuts, but it just, yeah. Put the wheel nut on. Make sure you don't cross thread it. And we'll give him a crank. There still is wiggle movement, but I feel it's definitely less because now the hub itself isn't moving. So I'm going to move over to the other side just to check that other side, see if it's the exact same thing. All right. So now we're on the other side. Do the same thing. I just want to check it. Like that. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just thirsty.
Do you want a beer or you want?
I'll have an iced tea. New England iced tea. Alright. Alright, so now let's just check. There's obviously pin movement there. We obviously have hub movement. See that? That's hub movement side to side. So I'm going to do the same thing, except I think I might be able to get away maybe with one washer on this side, seeing that it seems like this hub does seem to be less. So coming through the back side here and just loosen it up. Thank you, honey. Loosen that up. I am gonna grab, because visually I'm seeing, it looks like maybe the 2 washer thing might have to happen on this side too. I'm gonna try it first, just to see what happens. Screw that back on. Come to the backside. That sounds like Coast Guard. So on this side, it literally just needed the one outside washer. That movement is gone in that hub. So I'm happy with that. I mean, we are just talking plastics, so maybe it's just the mold process. But I'm happy with that now. There is typical rock coming in and out, which is fine. But getting that hub movement out of there is great. This side, there's actually way less movement on the bearing. There's almost no movement on here. So let's throw that wheel on. First couple of threads, just boom like that. Slide the wheel on. It'll graze the Loctite just a little bit. And the other thing you're probably going to want to do is grind down the 17 on the wrench that comes in here, because guess what? It doesn't really like to sit inside this wheel very well. There we go. So I feel I'm happy with that. We got rid of that movement in the hub itself, is gone on both sides. Now all I'm feeling is next to nothing for movement on this side, but on this side there is definitely a certain amount of odd play that we're having here, and I don't know if it's a defect, whether if it could be the bearing or if it's actually a defect in the actual cup or the axle. So yeah, see that? That's a lot of movement. And I think for a basher, no big deal, but I know people are going to be speed ripping this thing. I mean, I know I am. So, but I think we're good enough for now. Just like basically went through, tightened screws, made sure things were cool. We did take up some of that movement that we had in the hubs, so the hubs actually now no longer move on the pins. It's just we are having a little bit of motion on this actual axle right here. So yeah, I'm guessing it's not the bearing that's defective. It's probably the actual yeah, it's probably the actual spindle, or what you kind of want to call it, a spindle, honestly. It's kind of what it almost is like. So anyways, we're gonna toss this battery pack in here. This is the first time that I have ever done this with this kind of car, so I don't know which side I want the battery on. I don't think there is a weight difference. Seems like it's wanting to tilt more towards the ESC side. So for some reason it seems like the weight is over here, and it might be because the motor is more centrally balanced or something, but it really won't matter once I put this in anyway. So let's just get this battery pack in here. And I already did put freshies inside of here. These are the batteries that I run. I'm not a paid sponsor. And yeah, RC Guy Garage is gonna rip a Felony, baby. If I can figure out how to get the zip, the stuff here off. The heck? Is that literally wrapped underneath? Yeah, it is. There we go. First battery pack going into the Felony. Which way do I want to have this wire going? Probably that way. Something like that, maybe? Wrap that like that. God, this thing is long. Jeez. You know what this needs? This needs the wire strap. Why does this not have the wire strap? Probably because it's not bashing, right? That's probably why. Because this isn't bashing, it does not have that wire thing. I think it needs it though. Well, that's a lot of extra stuff here. Are they expecting me to put 18S in here? 18S. I don't even know what configuration that is. Alright, this is the first plug-in of this car. So, remote on. And then I'm going to plug in my adapter to adapter. Seems like that's alright. The only thing I'm not sure of is where this wire should go. Maybe it'll be alright like that. Yeah, that's kind of messed up. Because normally I think this wire would be going over there. So I don't think it's going to get caught in the drive shaft. But I'm also not trusting it either, though. Huh. Yeah, I don't know, man. What am I doing here? I'll just throw it in there just for safety's sake or something. I don't know. Just at least that way the wire kind of like stays up and out of the way. I mean, it's not like I'm jumping, but I don't know, just like a paranoia thing. All right, so now we're gonna throw the body on, wherever the body is. And what I noticed is all you literally have to do is like rock the body back and forth, and it like drops right into place. All right, so I actually just got a message from Earl Moorhead, basically telling me that I got the wrong screws. And I realized it as soon as he said that it didn't make sense how this front end looked. So while I'm right here, I wanted to show you something that I noticed about, at least I'm noticing about my particular infraction felony limitless. So here's obviously the splitter, and for some reason I wasn't putting like 2 and 2 together. When I replaced the screws on this thing, for some reason I was thinking that this part of the splitter, like I just literally wasn't thinking. And sometimes that's what it takes. It does take someone else to point something out to you. So the other thing that I think he had mentioned was the splitter is actually different between this car and the Limitless. So because I do not have a Limitless, my wonderment is this piece part of the Limitless, or is this felony only? Because I do believe he said that the splitter was different. Now, something that I'm noticing was the biggest thing that I had kind of pointed out was that he had said that these screws in reality are too short. And I'm not, who am I to speak? I'm not anybody to speak, okay? But I'm just looking at my particular situation. So obviously here's my splitter. My splitter goes like this. If I was to take the screw and basically place it like this, it basically almost comes to the top of this. It's basically coming to the top of this right here, right? So, and I don't know if this is like focusing in enough, but something else I just noticed. So these screws have the slightest amount of taper right here. Okay? What I noticed is that on this splitter, there is no taper. So that screw is actually sticking down. Can't even focus on it, can you? Dang it, I can't show it. The screw actually isn't even contacting the base of the splitter anyway. So I'm kind of confused. So basically, it's almost as if this splitter is supposed to have countersink. Because if you look at the base of these screws, there is a countersunk section to it, and it's not gonna focus because this is a GoPro, right? Of course. Well, there's a countersink. It needs to have this splitter would need to be countersunk in order for these screws to sit down flat. Now what I can do is I can take the screws that I had and I can use these basically effectively like what Earl was saying. And if I take that and then I screw it in or whatever, now these screws actually reach, it's gonna pop off one more time. These screws actually go a couple of threads past that edge into this portion of this lower chin spoiler or whatever the heck you want to call this. So I think I'm actually going to try that because I do not have any screws that are longer than this, and besides the fact this with having a taper on it makes it so that this splitter isn't even going to technically be supported by the base of this washer anyway, so that's kind of a flaw. So I'm gonna go ahead and retract what I said about these screws, which is what I thought what the splitter was. I don't know, I think I thought the splitter like went into it or something, because I've never actually opened up a splitter. I've never taken one off, so this is my first deal, and yeah, it's a learning experience for me here. So what I'm going to do is I am now going to put these screws back in that I took out, which are these ones here, because these ones seem long enough. Alright, I think I've got it now. So it seems as though for some strange reason my nut was like not straight, or it's being stripped, or something was going on. So I'm gonna put this like chin piece on. It's the only thing that I can explain that it's called, would be like the lower chin. And I'm gonna go after this screw right here, which was the one that was just like stripping out on me. So this one's fine now. Tighten that up. I do believe whatever that goes into is stripped out, the cage, because all these other screws are mint. So unfortunately, I actually don't have a screw like that, but he was saying that I can actually go with a screw like that because it's still like a couple threads like taller, and at least it's going to go all the way through the plastic, which I guess that is what the problem is what I'm noticing. And this screw number one doesn't even settle down all the way anyway, because of the taper on here. This at least has a flat surface, so I'm just hoping that this is going to be what works now, because now it's guesswork here, because I can't seem to I don't have the screws that are technically necessary. So I'm just going to do it this way for now. I'm going to put these screws back in, and the screws that I did put, oops, that doesn't go there. What am I doing? I'm not even paying attention here. I'm over here looking at the screw things for my next screw, so not even realizing that wasn't a screw. All right, so what I am going to do is I am going to get rid of these like he said. He said just, you know, not toss them in the trash, but get rid of them. Take your splitter, and we're going to put the splitter back on. We're going to forget using those large washered screws, which it almost seems like, yeah, it seems like the splitter's all right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these screws in place of that, which will actually settle down into the plastic better, and they'll sit flat too. Like that. That's way better. So this is the only thing that I can do, because I don't have any other screws. But these screws technically will be maybe like three, maybe 4 threads deeper into the plastic than originally was. And now you can see that it's actually settling down flat onto the actual material and not being held up and away. So this is not what he said to do, but it's close enough. I think he'd be okay with this setup. So we'll crank these all the way in. Car's falling off the table. I highly suspect I will be investing in splitters. Because what does a splitter do? Splits right off the car. So there we go. That's down. And one last screw on the other end here. Hopefully this will work. Get it to go into the hole. There we go. All right, I definitely feel more satisfied with this though, because now at least I know, just by even looking at the splitter itself, the splitter is getting slight dimples in the plastic where each one of these screws are going. So that means it obviously is holding tighter than a loose connection with these factory stock screws that actually need to have a countersink in the material. So if you are going to use these screws, maybe you should countersink the material or just get the proper flat screw. I'm going to go with these for now because it's all I've got. And I literally think now I'm ready. Now I'm glad that he messaged me. So he's actually doing real work right now. He had to put a water pump into a broken down truck. What was he working on? So this was some of Earl's fun for today. So there's a picture right there. That's some of Earl's fun for today. Oops, can't even see it. And you see, you got a water pump right there with a shredded belt, and then water pump installed with a new belt. So I think he's much happier now, and I think I am too. So I definitely appreciate that, Earl. Thank you for messaging me and let me know that I screwed up. I'd rather know that I screwed up than not. So I don't know, going through the car, I just, like I said, limited knowledge about speed cars. Earl definitely knows what he's talking about, but one day maybe I will too. So I think we're good. Got rid of the slop. More so the slop on that side is gone. I got rid of the hub slop on this side as well, but the spindle or the actual axle still does have a little bit of bearing slop. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but it is way better than... I'm not even pointing. God, whatever, man. You know, camera. So we got rid of the slop that was on this side. We got rid of the slop that was inside. Now the hub's a mint, the actual hub. Now it's just basically the spindle or axle that I'm having an issue with. especially on this side. This side's mint. This side's a little loose. Probably isn't going to really matter. We tightened up the steering, both the upper and lower ball joints. That's what I'm calling it. You can't change my thinking. Don't throw away any of your hardware. Always keep it. You can use it for something else. So we shimmed the hub, tightened all the screws in the bottom. We replaced these screws on the splitter. I actually did it now the right way. So it was not these screws, these 5. It was actually these 5 screws. So, what's hitting? All right, so it's just the plastic. So, all right, so now we've got a battery in there, and now I'm gonna take this thing out and rip it. I can't take it anymore. This thing needs to have this pack just run through it. And we are gonna rip this thing. So, I will, I'll see you out there on the streets.